My sister has always been obsessed with me, in an overprotective kind of way. When we were 10, she almost got kidnapped, but I took her place. I climbed into the van instead. They ransomed me back eventually, but not before they slashed up my face and shattered both of my legs. After that, something in her changed. She threw herself into our father's business, clawed her way through the wreckage, and built it back up from nothing. To the rest of the world, she became a terrifying figure, untouchable, ruthless. But to me, I was her everything, her soft spot, her one weakness. Once someone called me a freak. My sister stuffed the bastard's head into a sack of rats, until his face was unrecognizable. Another time someone mocked me for being a cripple. My sister ran over the bastard's legs with a steamroller and turned him into paste. In San Diego, they called her the Queen of Hell. But in our home, she was sweet like an angel. She spent a fortune sending me to London for reconstructive surgery, for physical therapy for college. Just before I came back to LA, she sent me a wedding invitation. "You'll finally have a brother-in-law who spoil you too." She texted me along with a picture of the guy. But the moment I stepped into her villa, everything went to hell. That same man, my so-called future brother-in-law, kicked the door down with a gang of thugs behind him. He thought I was just my sister's soft, foreign-raised brother, and he took it as permission to treat me like crap. When my sister finally showed up, he pointed down at me, bruised and bleeding on the floor. "You're picking that damn freak over me?" he shouted. My sister's eyes were glassy, but burning with vengeance. "How many lives?" she asked. "Do you think you worth compared to him?" A loud bang echoed, when the floor-to-ceiling window shattered into a storm of glass. A crew of dangerous-looking men stormed in, all muscle and menace. As I scrambled back, stunned, my eyes locked onto the man leading them. It's him, the guy from the photo my sister sent me a few days ago. Laid Durant, my soon-to-be brother-in-law. Before I could even speak, he slammed a metal rod across my face and a binding. Pain instantly exploded behind my eyes. I touched my nose. There was blood. My ears rang as I staggered back, feeling dizzy. Well, he spat. "Finally caught you, little leech. Thought you could hide abroad forever." He grabbed a golf club next and started swinging. Head, ribs, chest. I tried to cover up, tried to crawl away, but I tripped and hit the ground hard.
Why?
He got the wrong idea. But he didn't let me finish. He shoved the metal rod into my mouth and jabbed it twice. Pain shot through my gums and my throat. I felt my blood pour down my chin. "Idea my ass," he barked. "You think I don't know? You sweet-talked Dixie into buying you this villa. You knew we were getting engaged and came crawling back to ruin it. Even if you can't break us up, you still want to cling on and mush her, right? Today you're gonna pay for messing around my woman." You kick me again, harder. This time the back of my head slammed into the coffee table. I felt it split open. Blood filled my mouth as I coughed, forcing the words out. "You've got it all wrong. I'm her brother."
I'm Dixie Sawyers.
She messaged me just a few days ago. She asked me to come back for the engagement. He froze. One of the men behind him leaned in and whispered something. "I did hear the queen has a younger brother who's been living abroad. I think they're twins. No one's seen the kid though." Blade stared at me. "This guy doesn't look anything like her at all." Just then the front door burst open, and a man with a scar across his face stepped in. Scarface, one of my sister's oldest man.
He'll recognize me. He has to a Scarface.
"It's me, Alaka," I called, my voice cracking. "Stop staring at me like I was a ghost. Who the hell is this kid?"
He said. "How does he know me?"
Scarface looked curious, but Blade raised his iron rod again and slammed it across my mouth. The pain exploded so fast. Couldn't even scream. I could only clutch my face, blood pooling under my tongue. "He's the pretty boy I told you about," Blade sneered. "Probably overheard you guys when you walked in." Scarface shook his head slowly. "Something's not right. I think he said his name is Luca. That's the young master's name. No way an outsider would know that." He stepped closer and grabbed my face, squinting at me. This face doesn't look anything like the young master's. Though my heart sank. Of course, he didn't recognize me. He'd never seen my face after the surgeries. Then something clicked for him. Wait a minute. The young master was sent abroad for reconstructive surgery. Your face. Did you have work done? I nodded desperately, my eyes brimming with hope. Yes. I'm the one. I'm your young master." But Blade scoffed from the side.
What?
"A pretty boy getting plastic surgery is news. That's half their job description." Scarface raised a hand to shut him up. "Faces can lie. Eyes don't search him." Two of the goons stepped forward, grabbing me as I struggle. Blade smacked me across the face.
Quit moving.
Tie him up. They pin me down, tying me up tight and started patting me down. While I see that with humiliation, Scarface glanced over warily. You beat the crap out of him. What if he is the young master? Blade just chuckled and offered him a cigarette. So what? I'm about to marry Dixie. Even if I hit her little brother a few times by mistake. It just proves how much I care about her. She'll forgive me. Scarface puffed and nodded. I guess that makes sense. They soon found my ID blade, snatched it, and burst out laughing. See, told you he was faking. Scarface leaned in, reading aloud Eli Hale. Then he flipped open my diploma. Damn, definitely fake. He confirmed the young master's name is Luca. And he didn't go to Argentina. He went to London. Just like that. I felt the ground vanish under me. After the kidnapping years ago, my sister had removed me from the family registry, changed my name. I took our mother's surname. She hadn't told anyone, not even Scarface. All to keep me safe. She hid everything so well. Now, it's going to get me killed. I could feel my heart race faster as Scarface's expression turned cold. This bastard dared pretend to be the young master. Be the hell out of him, to his words. The other men threw me to the floor and started kicking and punching me. My phone fell from my pocket and landed. Screen up. As the display lit up, Scarface caught a glimpse and froze.
Wait.
He snatched it off the ground, his face pale. The wallpaper was a photo of me and my sister, arms around each other and smiling.
His hands trembled as he held it.
Up his phone. Is it yours? I nodded frantically on the side. Blade sneered. Come on, Scarface. It's just a photo. He probably photoshopped it. I jerked my head, signaling Scarface to open the phone and see for himself. He got the hint, held it up to my face to unlock it, and started scrolling. Then he saw at my messages with my sister. He calls her Big Sis in his contacts. It's real, Scarface gasped. But Blade snatched the phone from him. Don't fall for it. That's exactly what gold-digging little leeches like him do. Call rich women Big Sis so they can cozy to them. He scrolled up once, twice, then stopped cold, his face twisting with rage. Oh, really? She gave you a whole villa. She calls you baby, says she never wants to be apart from you again. I wanted to explain, but the pain in my mouth flared up so bad I couldn't even speak. My sister is the only family I've got. She never wanted me to stay abroad forever. Growing up, no one ever laid a finger on me. And now look at me, beaten to a pulp by her fiancé. Can't even get a word out. Even her people didn't recognize me. Dixie, it hurts so bad. The thought made me cry silently. Scarface frowned when he saw it. This kid's got the same vibe as the young master. Can't handle a bit of pain? Cries real easy, he said. Should we double check? The queen really spoils her little brother, if he is the one we screwed. Blade nodded.
All right.
I'll make a call and ask if he really is Dixie's brother. I'll take the fall. No one else gets dragged in. But if he's not, his face twisted into something monstrous. If not, then I'll make this pretty boy wish he was never born. He told one of the big guys to shut me up and pulled out his phone to call my sister. Hey boo, didn't you say your brother's coming back for our engagement party? What day exactly is he arriving? I want prep a little welcome gift for him. That's why I'm asking. Dixie's cheerful voice came through the phone.
That's so sweet of you, he said.
He'll be home tomorrow night. My heart sank.
Shit.
I changed my flight to surprise her. Got here today instead. Blade's eyes turned cold and calculating as he looked at me. If he hangs up now, I'm done for. I opened my mouth and bit down hard. The guy covering it yelped in pain and let go. Dixie, help me. I screamed with everything I had. Blade's face twisted and he quickly kicked me to the floor, slamming his foot over my mouth on the other end. My sister hesitated. Did someone just scream for help? Blade forced to laugh. That just the TV. Anyway, since your brother's arriving soon, I better prep that gift.
Talk to you.
Later he hung up and just like that, my last sliver of hope disappeared. Pain exploded in my face as he pressed down harder with his foot. You little bastard thought you could fool me, huh? Almost got me. I started crying from the pain, but he wasn't satisfied. He looked down at my tear-streaked face, and I saw something dark flash in his eyes. Jealousy. This is the face he used to hook Dixie, isn't it? She's already agreed to marry me. And she still went and bought you a freaking villa. One of the guys behind him tried to calm him down. Honestly, it's not that weird. Big shots like the queen always have side lovers. If she likes him, maybe we just let it slide. I mean, you're the one marrying her. Why not turn a blind eye? Even Scarfy chimed in. Yeah, you're the main guy. He's nothing next to you, man. Blade wavered like he was actually thinking it over. Meanwhile, I was about to explode from how unfair this all was. I'm her real brother. And they're treating me like some random toy boy punching bag. My sister has the worst taste in men. When I see her, I will make her call this damn engagement off. Blade must have caught the anger in my eyes. He'd been softening, but that look lit him up with rage again. You're still glaring at me? Pretty boy. I won't kill you today. I'll at least ruin. You yanked his foot away, pulled out a knife, and slashed it toward my face.
No.
I screamed in agony, but he just carved faster. If you look like a freaking monster, then I'll be the only one Dixie will always be looking for. The pain hit me so hard I nearly blacked out this face. My sisters spent a fortune, hired the best doctors, and it took 3 whole years to fix it up. And now he just ruined it like that. She's never gonna let him get away with this. You're dead meat. I spat the words out through clenched teeth. That was it. Blade snapped. Son of a bitch. You're cursing me, you little shit. He slashed at my lips with a knife.
Curse me again. Go on. Curse me again.
All I felt was a numb, searing pain. I couldn't even form a single word anymore. He wasn't done yet, his hand twitching like he wanted to do more damage. But then we all heard it. Heels clicking outside the room. Queen, what are you doing here? It's her, my sister. She's here. The sound of clicking heels against the polished Italian marble didn't just fill the silence of the foyer. It shattered it like thin ice. Every man in the living room stiffened. Even Blade, who only a second ago had been sneering with the arrogant thrill of a butcher in an open market, froze. The iron rod in his hand dipped an inch. The smirk on his face twitched, suddenly hollowed out by an instinctual, primal dread that every low-level predator feels when the apex hunter enters the room. Dixie. Blade stammered, his voice dropping 3 octaves into a performative, eager sweetness that made the blood pooling in my throat turn sour. He spun around, trying to position his broad frame in front of my broken, bleeding body.
Babe.
What are you doing here early? You said. Get out of my way, Blade. Her voice wasn't raised. It was low, raspy, carrying the freezing draft of a open morgue. Dixie stepped past the shattered floor-to-ceiling glass, her pristine black trench coat sweeping over the carpet like a shadow over a graveyard. She didn't look at the thugs. She didn't look at the broken furniture or the blood splattered across the ivory velvet sofa. Her eyes were fixed entirely on the floor. On me. I couldn't move my jaw. Blade's knife had sliced through my upper lip, and the deep, jagged gashes across my cheeks burned like liquid fire. My left eye was swollen shut, purple and weeping serum. My right eye, blurred through a film of tears and crimson, locked onto her. I couldn't speak. I could only make a wet, strangled sound in the back of my throat, a helpless, desperate whine that I hadn't made since I was 10 years old, sitting in the back of a filthy van while strangers sliced my face to pieces. Dixie stopped dead in her tracks. The silence that followed was suffocating. It felt as if the atmosphere in the room had been sucked out, leaving a vacuum where oxygen used to be. Blade tried to step back into her line of sight, his palms raised, putting on a forced, boyish grin. Babe, don't look at that trash. Some delusional little scammer broke into the villa, claimed he knew you, tried to extort the estate. Scarface and I were just taking care of it before he could bother you. Dixie didn't hear a word he said. She dropped her designer leather handbag. It hit the floor with a soft, heavy thud. Slowly, reverently, as if her knees were made of glass, the terrifying Queen of San Diego sank to her knees right in front of me, uncaring that her tailored pants were soaking up the thick puddle of my blood. Her trembling, manicured hands hovered an inch above my ruined face. She was afraid to touch me, terrified that even the gentlest pressure would cause me more pain. Luca, she whispered. The raspy, icy voice was gone. In its place was the broken, terrified voice of a 10-year-old girl watching her brother get dragged into the dark. Luca, baby, is that you? I couldn't nod. I just let out another choked, whimpering breath, my fingers weakly twitching against the hardwood, reaching for the hem of her coat. Scarface dropped his cigarette. The white cylinder rolled into a crimson puddle, sizzling out. His face didn't just turn pale, it turned the color of ash. He looked at the discarded ID on the table, Eli Hale, and then at the battered, bloody boy on the floor, and the realization hit him like a freight train, traveling at full speed. Oh God. Scarface gasped, his knees shaking so hard he had to grab the back of a chair. The reconstructive surgery, the mother's surname. Dixie's eyes slowly lifted from my face to the iron rod in Blade's hand. Then to the bloody knife tucked into his belt. then to the bloody boot print stamped onto the side of my head. The air in the room died completely. When Dixie stood up, she didn't look like a human being anymore. The sweet, weeping sister vanished instantly, replaced by a creature composed entirely of pitch black, absolute malice. Her eyes were glazed over, glassy, completely devoid of emotion, like two dark glass marbles set into an iron skull. "Scarface," she said quietly. "Why, yes, Queen." Scarface fell to his knees, slamming his forehead against the floor, sobbing frantically. "Queen, I didn't know." Blade said. Blade had his ID. It said Eli Hale. It said Argentina. "I didn't know he took your mother's name."
I
"Swear on my life, Queen, I didn't lay a finger on him." "I tried to check." "Scarface," Dixie repeated, her voice eerily level. "How many years have you worked for the Sawyers family?" 15 years, Queen." "And you let a dog?" She slowly turned her gaze toward Blade. "Beat my brother until his bones broke?" "Dixie, wait," Blade yelled, taking a step back, his face sweating profusely.
Now.
His bravado was completely gone, replaced by wild, animal panic.
He lied. To us.
"He didn't look like your brother. I was just protecting your villa."
I'm
"Your fiancé. We're getting married next month." Dixie reached beneath her trench coat and pulled out a sleek, matte black Glock 19. She didn't rack the slide. She didn't make a speech. She didn't hesitate.
bang.
Blade's left kneecap exploded in a spray of bone and gore.
He let out a
Blood-curdling shriek, collapsing onto the floor, clutching his ruined leg as blood spurted through his fingers. "Married?" Dixie screamed, the dam breaking, her voice echoing off the concrete walls like a thunderclap. "You think you're getting married?"
bang.
She shot his other kneecap. Blade's screams turned into high-pitched, wet gurgles as he writhed on the marble, floating in his own blood just inches away from me. The 5 goons Blade had brought with him panicked, pulling their weapons.
But
Before they could clear their holsters, the heavy double doors of the villa were kicked off their hinges entirely. A dozen men clad in tactical gear, armed with silenced submachine guns, swept into the room like a plague of locusts. They were Dixie's personal vanguard, the ghosts who handled the jobs that never made the newspapers. Within 3 seconds, a hail of suppressed gunfire echoed through the room. Blade's 5 goons dropped like lead weights, their bodies riddled with holes, painting the white walls with fresh, steaming crimson. The room fell silent again, save for the pathetic, wet gasps coming from Blade, and the sound of Scarface, weeping hysterically with his head pressed into the blood-soaked floor. Dixie walked over to Blade. She didn't look down at him with anger anymore.
she
Looked at him the way a child looks at a squishy bug on the sidewalk before stepping on it. She raised her heavy heel and brought it down directly on Blade's broken jaw. Crack. Blade groaned, his teeth shattering, blood pouring from his mouth. "You cut his face," Dixie whispered, her hand trembling violently around the grip of her gun. 3 years of agony in London. 3 years of skin grafts, of bone shaping, of him crying himself to sleep because he thought he was hideous, and you cut his face. Dixie, mercy." Blade sobbed, choking on his own teeth.
I
didn't." "No." "Scarface," Dixie said softly, not looking back. "Why, yes, Queen?" Scarface wept, trembling violently. "Take Blade to the basement of the old slaughterhouse in San Diego. Tie him to the rack. Put a bag over his head. Fill the bag with starving sewer rats." Her voice was terrifyingly calm, as if she were ordering a cup of coffee. "If he dies before 48 hours, I will skin your wife and children in front of
you."
Scarface didn't hesitate. He scrambled to his feet, grabbing Blade by his collar, dragging the screaming, half-dead man out through the shattered glass doors, leaving a long, dark red trail down the driveway. Dixie dropped her gun. It clattered uselessly onto the floor. She threw herself back down beside me, her hands hovering, her eyes brimming with fat, heavy tears that finally overflowed and dripped onto my cheeks, mixing with my blood. "Luca, oh, baby, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," she sobbed, pressing her forehead gently against my collarbone, careful not to touch my crushed face or my broken ribs. "I hid you too well. I tried to keep you so safe that I made you invisible. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." I forced my single open eye to look at her. Through the excruciating, white-hot agony tearing through my skull, I raised my bruised, bloody hand and rested my thumb against her trembling cheek. "I'm back, big sis," I tried to say. No words came out. Only blood. But she understood. She wrapped her arms gently around my torso, lifting me up into her lap, screaming for her medics like a dying animal in the dark. The smell of hospital-grade antiseptic, scorched skin, and metallic blood hung heavy in the air. I woke up to the rhythmic, monotonous beep, beep, beep of a heart monitor. My entire head was encased in heavy, tight bandages. My mouth was wired shut, my lips held together by dozens of microstitches. Tubes snaked into my nose, carrying oxygen and heavy narcotics, dulling the razor-sharp throbbing in my
Cheeks and jaw.
both of my legs were immobilized in heavy carbon fiber casts, suspended slightly above the sterile hospital bed. I shifted slightly, and a soft gasp echoed from the corner of the room.
Luca.
Dixie was at my bedside in less than a second. She looked ghastly. The queen of hell looked like a ghost. Her dark hair, usually pinned in an immaculate, suffocating bun, hung loose and tangled around her shoulders. She was still wearing the same blood-stained clothes from yesterday. Her eyes were bloodshot, purple bags hanging beneath them, her skin deathly pale. "Don't move, baby. Don't try to speak," she whispered urgently, grabbing my right hand and pressing it against her face. Her skin was burning hot against my numb fingers. "The surgeon, Dr. Vance, he worked on you for 14 hours. They fixed the nasal fracture and closed the cheek lacerations. The lips, they had to reconstruct the muscle tissue." Her voice cracked, a sob catching in her throat. She squeezed her eyes shut, fighting for control, but a tear slipped past her lashes and wet my knuckles. He said most of the scars can be faded again with laser therapy over the next year, but she couldn't finish the sentence. I squeezed her hand back gently. "It doesn't matter," I wanted to tell her. "I don't care about my face. I never cared about my face. I just wanted to come home." "I found out everything, Luca," Dixie said, her voice instantly dropping into that terrifying, absolute zero pitch. Her grip on my hand tightened, not enough to hurt me, but enough to show the violent tremor coursing through her body. "Blade Durant didn't just come to your villa by mistake." I blinked, looking at her intently. "He was set up by his family," Dixie explained, her eyes burning with a dark, predatory light. "The Durant Syndicate in San Diego, they're a second-rate crime family. Blade was supposed to be their golden ticket. He wooed me for 6 months, acting like a gentle, humble businessman. But his family was deeply in debt to the Mexican cartels. They knew I had billions in liquid assets.
They
Knew I was building an empire." She leaned in closer, her breath smelling faintly of cold coffee and copper. "Blade found out through Scarface's loose mouth that I bought a $30 million villa in Bel Air for a special guest. Blade thought I had a secret lover.
He
Thought I was playing him for a fool. He brought his goons to the villa to beat my lover into leaving LA so he could secure his place as my husband and take over the Sawyer's estate." A bitter wave of anger washed over me. All this bloody torture, my shattered jaw, my ruined face. Because a petty, ambitious thug wanted my sister's money. "Scarface is dead," Dixie added casually, as if mentioning she had swept the
floor.
"I had him thrown into the harbor with 50 pounds of concrete wrapped around his ankles. He let a dog touch my blood. He didn't deserve a second chance." She reached over and picked up a tablet from the bedside table, sliding her finger across the screen. "Blade is still alive," she whispered, a sickening, beautiful smile spreading across her lips. "In the slaughterhouse. The rats ate his ears and his nose. Yesterday, Dr. Vance keeps a medical team down there to give him blood transfusions and adrenaline shots, so he doesn't pass out from the shock.
He
Won't die for a very long time, Luca. I promise you that." I looked at the tablet screen. On it was a live video feed of a dark, filthy, concrete cell. A man was chained to a steel frame, screaming hysterically behind a thick mesh wire mask filled with squirming, hungry gray rats. His face was already a ruined, bloody pulp. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel horror. 10 years ago, when those kidnappers slashed my face and smashed my knees with iron pipes, I learned that the world was a cruel, merciless meat grinder.
Dixie.
Had turned herself into a monster to protect me from that grinder.
And if
someone tried to hurt her or use her love for me against her, then they deserved every single horror she brought down upon them. I tapped my fingers twice against her hand.
Good.
Dixie saw the look in my open eye, and her smile broadened, warm and terrifying. That's my boy, she murmured, leaning down to kiss my bandaged forehead. That's my little brother. But it doesn't end with Blade, Luca. The Durant family, his father, old Arthur Durant, and his two brothers, they knew what Blade was doing. They were waiting in San Diego, preparing to leverage Blade's engagement to force me into signing over our shipping docks. She straightened up, her eyes flashing with absolute, merciless fury. They think I'm weak because I'm a woman. They think because Blade managed to get close to me, the Sawyer's empire is soft. They don't know who I really am. They don't know what happens when someone touches my heart. She pulled a sleek satellite phone from her coat pocket. I'm burning them down, Luca. Every docks, every warehouse, every shell company, every human being who carries the Durant name. I'm going to erase them from the face of the earth. She paused, looking at me with a sudden softness. Unless you want to watch? I grabbed her sleeve. My fingers dug firmly into the fabric. I couldn't speak, but I opened my eyes wide and pointed to the laptop resting on the tray table. I spent 3 years in London studying corporate finance, dark web architecture, and international logistics. Dixie thought she was sending me away to hide me, to give me a normal, innocent life. But I hadn't spent my time in college, painting pictures or reading poetry. I knew who my sister was. I knew the war. She fought every day to keep our family alive. I had spent those 3 years building a digital nerve center, learning how to dismantle financial empires. From a laptop, Dixie stared at me, slowly realizing what I was showing her. You built something? She asked, bewildered. I nodded as much as my neck brace allowed. I slowly typed a single sentence into the tablet's text-to-speech app. You gave them hell with guns, Dixie. Let me take their money first. Dixie read the screen. For the first time in 2 days, a real, genuine laugh erupted from her throat, dark, rich, and bursting with pride. My sweet little baby brother, she whispered, her eyes shining with manic adoration. You really are my twin. Let's ruin them together. Over the next 48 hours, the ICU room on the top floor of the private clinic became the nerve center of a quiet, brutal war. While heavy 4 drips poured painkillers and antibiotics into my veins, my fingers flew across a modified mechanical keyboard resting on my lap. On the 3 large monitors set up across my hospital bed, lines of code, offshore bank accounts, shell company registries, and real-time GPS feeds scrolled by an A, green and white blur. Dixie sat beside me, sipping black coffee, listening as her field captains called in every 10 minutes. Queen, we're outside the Durant family's main distribution hub in San Pedro. Her commander, a muscular monster of a man named Marcus, reported over the
Speakerphone.
We have 20 men armed and ready to breach.
Should we set the
fire now? Dixie looked at me. I pressed a key on my laptop. A synthesized, cold robotic voice boomed from my
speakers.
Not yet, Marcus. Look at Terminal 4. Arthur Durant stored 80% of his untraceable bonds in a cold storage server inside the basement. I am draining the crypto wallets right now. Give me 3 minutes. Marcus went silent on the line. Who is that? That's the young master, you idiot. Dixie snapped into the phone, a cruel smirk on her face. Listen to him like you listen to God. Understood, Queen. Young master? On my screen, the progress bar hit 100%. $140 million in dark market bonds and hidden cartel funds vanished from the Durant family's offshore accounts in Panama, routing through 16 proxy servers in Zurich before settling permanently into an untraceable trust fund under my mother's maiden name, Hale. I hit another key. The synthetic voice spoke again. The accounts are empty. They are officially bankrupt. Burn the hub to the ground. Copy that, young master. Through the security feeds I had hacked, I watched as flamethrowers and thermite charges detonated across the massive San Pedro warehouse. Millions of dollars in illegal contraband, vehicles, and ledgers dissolved into a massive tower of black smoke rising over the California coastline. In a single night, without firing a single bullet myself, I dismantled the financial backbone of the Durant syndicate. Arthur Durant, Blade's father, didn't even know what hit him. By 3 a.m., his credit lines were frozen, his assets seized by international tax authorities. Following anonymous tips containing encrypted financial records I leaked to the FBI, and his cartel suppliers were receiving automated notifications that the Durant family had lost all their funds. By 5 a.m., the cartels did what cartels always do when a debtor defaults. They turned on the Durants. Queen, Marcus called back, his voice tinged with dark amusement. The Mexican Cartel just raided Arthur Durant's primary estate in Coronado. They think old Arthur stole their money. Arthur and his second son, Julian, are currently barricaded in their panic room, screaming for police help. Dixie took a slow sip of her coffee, her eyes glinting like polished obsidian. Cut the power to the panic room, she instructed calmly. Jam their cell signals. Tell the cartel boys they can have whatever is inside the house, except Arthur and Julian. Bring those two to me alive. Yes, Queen. Dixie leaned back in her leather armchair, turning her gaze back to me. I was exhausted. My bandaged head throbbed with a dull, heavy ache, and my fingers were stiff. But looking at the destruction scrolling across my monitors, a deep, dark sense of peace washed over me. Dixie stood up, walking over to the bed. She leaned down, gently pulling the heavy blanket higher up over my chest. You did all this from a hospital bed, she murmured softly, running her cool fingers through my hair, avoiding the bandages wrapped around my crown.
They
Thought you were my soft spot, Luca. They thought you were my weakness. She leaned down, her lips brushing against my ear. They didn't realize you're not my weakness, baby. You're my weapon. I let out a soft, muffled breath through my stitched mouth, allowing my eyes to slowly close as the heavy narcotics began to pull me back down into sleep. The Durant Empire was dead. The money was gone. Their allies had turned on them. Now, all that was left was the final act. The slaughterhouse. The old slaughterhouse on the outskirts of San Diego smelled of rust, damp, earth, and ancient dried blood. Rain lashed against the corrugated tin roof, creating a deafening, metallic roar that drowned out the weeping coming from inside the concrete basement. I sat in a heavy, motorized wheelchair, wrapped in a thick cashmere coat Dixie had bought for me. My legs were still in casts, and my face was still wrapped in tight medical bandages, but the wire holding my mouth shut had been removed hours earlier by Dr. Vance, allowing me to speak in a low, gravelly rasp. Dixie stood beside my chair, her hand resting firmly on my shoulder. In front of us, illuminated by a single overhead halogen bulb swaying from a frayed wire, were three men. Blade Durant was suspended from the ceiling by heavy rusty chains wrapped around his wrists. He barely looked human anymore. His nose and ears were gone, replaced by raw, scarred pink tissue. His jaw was mangled, his legs broken at unnatural angles. He hung there like a piece of spoiled meat in a butcher shop. On the concrete floor beneath him sat his father, Arthur Durant, a bloated, gray-haired man in a ruined silk suit, and his middle brother, Julian. Both were bound hand and foot with heavy zip ties, their faces bruised, their eyes wide with sheer, paralyzing terror. Dixie, please. Arthur Durant wheezed, blood dripping from his nose onto
his gold tie.
We didn't know. Blade acted alone. He lied to us. He told us he was handling a business dispute. We didn't know he touched your brother. Liar, I rasped out. The voice that came out of my throat was thin, gravelly, and harsh, like two stones grinding together. Arthur's head snapped toward me. He stared at the heavily bandaged figure in the wheelchair, his eyes filled with horror. Who are you? I am the freak, I rasped, my single open eye burning into his soul. I am the cripple, the gold digger, the side lover your son tried to turn into paste. Arthur gasped, his face turning the color of milk. You're the brother.
Luca?
He has a name, Dixie said quietly. She stepped forward, her heels clicking ominously against the blood-stained concrete. She pulled a heavy steel crowbar from a tool rack on the wall, testing its weight in her gloved hands. Blade thought he could take my brother's life, Dixie murmured, her voice eerily calm despite the violent storm in her eyes. He thought he could slice his face, the face I spent 3 years putting back together, and that I would just cry about it. She stopped in front of Julian, Arthur's middle son. Julian began to weep frantically, shaking his head. Please. No. I didn't do anything. I was in San Diego the whole time. I didn't even know Blade was in. You shared the profits, Dixie said simply. When Blade sent photos of my brother bleeding on the floor, you texted him back. Make sure the pretty boy can't walk again. Julian froze. His eyes darted to the tablet sitting on a crate nearby, the tablet containing all their decrypted messages. Dixie, no. Crack. Dixie swung the crowbar with terrifying, lethal precision. The heavy steel bar collided with Julian's left knee. A sickening crunch echoed through the basement, followed instantly by a blood-curdling shriek that tore through the
air.
Crack. She swung again, shattering his right knee. Julian fell sideways, screaming, hyperventilating, clawing at the concrete. "That's for his legs," Dixie whispered, her face completely expressionless. She turned to Arthur Durant, who was weeping uncontrollably, begging, offering. Money, land, docks, anything to save his life. "Your family thought you could use my soft spot to crush me," Dixie said, raising the crowbar. "You thought my brother was my vulnerability. You didn't realize he's the only thing keeping me human. And now that you've hurt him..." She leaned down, her face inches from the old man's terrified eyes. "There is no human left inside me." I watched in silent, cold satisfaction as Dixie carried out the sentence.
She
didn't hurry. She was meticulous, brutal, and utterly unyielding. For 2 hours, the rain poured outside, and the sounds of retribution echoed inside the old slaughterhouse. When it was over, the Durant family was no more. Blade, Arthur, and Julian were left hanging in the dark, motionless, their screams silenced forever, paying the final, absolute debt for every tear, every drop of blood, and every scar they had inflicted on my body. Dixie dropped the bloody crowbar onto the floor. It clattered against the concrete, settling into a dark red puddle. She walked back to my wheelchair, taking a clean white towel from her pocket to wipe the red flecks from her hands and face. Then, she knelt down in front of me, placing her trembling hands gently on my
knees.
"Are you warm enough, baby?" she asked softly, her eyes filled with that same sweet, angel-like warmth she only ever showed to me. I looked down at her, the queen of hell, the terror of the underworld, the woman who had just erased an entire family from existence without a second thought. I reached out, my thumb gently tracing her cheekbone. "I'm warm, big sis," I rasped out, a genuine, albeit painful, smile tugging at the corners of my bandaged lips. "Let's go home." 6 months later, the Bel Air villa had been completely rebuilt. The shattered glass was replaced with triple-pane reinforced ballistic crystal. The blood on the marble was long gone, replaced by thick, plush Persian rugs and handcrafted mahogany furniture. Outside, the LA sun shone brightly over the infinity pool, reflecting off the manicured gardens below. I stood on the balcony, leaning lightly against a silver cane. The heavy bandages were finally gone. Dr. Vance's miracle work, combined with months of advanced laser therapy, had done the impossible. My face was smooth,
Defined and sharp.
the scars were gone, save for a single, thin, silver line running from the corner of my upper lip down to my jawline. A subtle reminder, a mark of survival. I was no longer the fragile boy who had been sent away to London to hide.
My
legs were strong again, rebuilt with titanium pins and months of relentless physical therapy. Behind me, the double doors of the master suite opened. Dixie walked out onto the balcony, wearing an immaculate white silk suit.
She
held 2 glasses of red wine, handing one to me. "The Durant assets have been fully liquidated," she said, leaning her shoulder against mine as we looked out over the city. "The shipping docks in San Diego are officially under the Sawyer's Logistics brand. The cartels have formally apologized for their association with Arthur Durant, and they've offered us exclusive distribution rights across the West Coast." I took a slow sip of the wine, feeling the cool breeze wash over my face. "And the underworld?" I asked softly, my voice completely restored, deep, calm, and commanding. "There is no underworld anymore, Luca," Dixie smiled, a chillingly beautiful look in her eyes. "There's only us. Everyone knows who you are now. Nobody calls you Eli Hale anymore. Nobody calls you the mystery twin." She turned to face me, adjusting the collar of my suit jacket with maternal tenderness. "To the rest of the world, they think I'm the monster who rules California," she whispered, her eyes shining with absolute pride. "They think you're the quiet prince sitting in the high tower." I smiled, raising my glass toward the city skyline. "Let them think whatever they want," I murmured. "As long as they remember what happens when someone touches the Queen's brother." Dixie laughed, a light, sweet sound that floated away into the warm California
air.
She clinked her glass against mine, her eyes burning with that dark, unshakable devotion that had bound our souls together ever since we were 10 years old. "To us, baby brother," she whispered. "To the end of the world." "To us," I agreed. We stood together on the balcony, 2 monsters born from the same violence, looking down upon the empire we had built from the ashes of our enemies, unbreakable, untouchable, and forever unbroken.